Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Francisco Cantu.
And I am Laura Cantu. Thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss some really important information regarding the college admissions process, specifically what's going on with the FAFSA, why did it crash, why isn't it working, what you can do to maybe help out your situation, because there are people who are able or have been able in the past couple of days, today, to fill out the form. So there are certain things that you could do, I guess, technologically, IT, even though we're not really IT people, but there are certain things that maybe you could do with your browser, with your apps, Chrome, Firefox, etc., to maybe be able to fill out this form. Also going to talk about what documents are required to fill out the FAFSA so that you are ready once it opens. Why don't we go ahead and talk about what happened over the weekend? Because it was very interesting. I did see so many comments. I mean, we published a video here on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook on, what was it, Friday?
Yeah, as soon as the soft launch happened, I believe it was the 29th, we immediately, we got to record, we got to bring down the green screen, take screenshots of the release of the announcement. So we did that, and within the first 10 minutes, the comment section was flooded with, it's not live, it's not working, why are you lying? People were encountering problems. So the good thing, though, about this whole situation, it seems to be a problem across the board and that people all across the country are encountering this problem. So at least you have that going for you, or not acting against you. So yeah, that's a little bit of a summary as to what happened over the weekend.
Do not panic. Do not worry if you can't fill out the FAFSA right now. Colleges and universities are fully aware of what is happening. They're fully aware that the website crashed, that they had to go under maintenance, and that a lot of students across the United States are not being able to fill out this form. There are other things you could be working on, things that your student could be doing in the meantime to maximize scholarships, to, maybe get more financial aid, more private scholarships, maybe work on other college applications if they're submitting some regular decision applications, or maybe look into state scholarships if there are some state scholarship programs available that they might not know about. There are so many other things that you could be doing right now. Now, this does not mean that you should say, all right, I'm not going to fill out the FAFSA. I'm going to wait, 2 months? Just do it as soon as it works, fill it out, all right?
I would just recommend checking in a few times a day. Eventually it's going to open up. And we do have some tips as to what to do to try to get it to open up, talk a little bit about what we can do in order to help, or in order to do something and not just sit there twiddling our thumbs to see if the form becomes available.
The biggest tip is to make sure, if you are trying to log into your FAFSA profile, make sure that if you're doing it on your phone, that your app, if you're using Safari, Firefox, or Chrome, that those apps are up to date.
And on that same note, not only the app itself, making sure that it's updated, but if you want to go into the history and you want to go into the cookies and the browser history, if you go ahead and you clear the cache there, that will also, if there's anything in your cookies that is preventing you from loading the page, I'll get rid of that. So that alone are two ways in which you can make sure that it's not a technical thing that is preventing you, if that is the issue itself. Other than those two things, anything else, things that you can do from your end?
Yes, this is the peak times. Remember when Game of Thrones, I know that's a streaming service, but when Game of Thrones would come out and literally the site would crash because so many people were trying to access it and watch it. We have had members of Best College Aid who told us that they were already able to fill it out because they literally stayed up, or they just happened to do it really late at night or in the middle of the night. So if you get out of work, or if you are in your lunch break, chances are that a lot of people are going to be trying to access the FAFSA form because that's the free time that they get. So definitely try to access it, log in, check into that website, maybe at a time that's not so conventional, an unconventional time. And I do want to clarify something because I am seeing some comments, and we saw this question a lot, saying, oh, my son is a senior and I filled out my FAFSA in October. I filled it out back in September. And September, the FAFSA was not available. Well, the 2024-2025 FAFSA form, which is the one that your student should be filling out if they are a senior or if they do have to renew that form this upcoming year. So make sure that you are filling out the right form, because for the past couple of months and maybe even now, the 2023-2024 FAFSA form was available on the FAFSA website and people could fill it out, but that is not the right form that you have to fill out. This new FAFSA is a little different than the one you've seen in years prior. This form is going to be shorter. There's going to be less questions, which, is nicer. FAFSA before had around 100, more than 100
Yeah,
questions?
it used to be back in the day up around 100 questions. Now, students, depending, because again, sometimes you open up a question and depending on how you answer it, you'll open up more, but students can answer as little as 18 questions. And the release that they said was that it could take as little as 10 minutes. All of these changes are meant to simplify the form and to make it, again, go by quicker. And that is one of the big changes, the number of questions. Another very important change is the methodology through which financial standing gets calculated. Before, they calculated for a number called the estimated family contribution. It's exactly what it sounds like. The number that came at the bottom of the FAFSA or after completing the form was meant to be a amount that represents how much your family was expected to contribute towards your education. Now it works somewhat similarly for the new number, which is called the Student Aid Index. But what this number unlocks is more sort of like an insurance marketplace in terms of it will look at the federal poverty line. It will look at your family, how many dependents. It will look where you live. It will look at all this different financial information, your tax returns, your assets, all those different things. And then based on that, we'll put you into a tier as far as the federal Pell Grant, whether you qualify for the full amount, for a partial amount. And then the universities will also take a look at this number and have their own internal policies as far as whether you qualify for other sorts of institutional awards. So that's a little bit of how it works and how it's different than previous years.
Now we're going to discuss the documents that are necessary to fill out the FAFSA form.
First thing that you need to do before you complete the form is make sure that the people who are going to be completing the form or going to be participants of completing the form, students and parents, have something called the FSA ID. The FSA ID is basically your electronic signature, and it's needed to complete the form to make sure that the parent testifies, okay, well, this is my information, I certify this correct. The student does the same thing. After that, as far as physical documentation, you also need your tax returns. We always teach our students since at Best College Aid, they know this by now. You should always use the documents, the fiscal documents from 2 years prior. So for the 2024-2025 school cycle, you take that first number, 2024, you subtract 2022, those are the tax returns you need. So your 2022 tax returns are going to be needed. And now they have an integration that should automate a lot of the populating these boxes and whatnot. Before it was the IRS data retrieval tool. So that will make it easier for you, but we still recommend that you have those documents just so that you can verify that everything's correct. So yes, those are your federal income tax returns. Now, if you have other sorts of untaxed income, and what I mean by untaxed income is maybe you are a parent who is in a situation in which the student is getting, for example, child support. That is something that has to be reported. So untaxed income, or also if there are other sorts of assets, if you have assets, like investments or retirement accounts, you should have information on those assets so that you can go ahead and report it on the appropriate sections of the form that require it. Finally, the student should have a list of all the universities that either they have already applied to or plan to continue to apply to if they have not done this yet, so that the information, once it's completed, once you get your student aid index, once you get done with the form, the information can be then automatically sent to the school, and then the institution can make those decisions as far as how much awards they're going to give the student. Super, super important if you have not done this already to make the perfect list of colleges. Again, it is one of the most important things we teach our students, because if you don't have the proper list of colleges in terms of academics, you're either going to end up not studying what you want to study, and you're either drop out, or you're going to major in something you don't care about, or you're going to transfer, but that's going to waste you time and money. Or let's say that it satisfies that, but you were not strict enough in your financial criteria and you applied to just any school. And it could be a school that is not known for satisfying a good amount of the demonstrated financial need of the household, because again, not all schools are equally as generous. You might end up sending this information to the FAFSA to a school that, maybe you're accepted, but you're going to have to go into a long time of debt, unnecessary debt, because you did not look at what was the responsible or the proper option based on your current situation.
Honestly, personally, I believe that creating that list of colleges is the most important part, or the most important part of the process. Now, we do go over this in more depth in our free training that we have for you about the top secrets to go to college with scholarships. The link is in this video's description.
Go check that out. Worst comes to worst, you get a lot of value and that you can share with your student.
We did receive lots of questions throughout this weekend, and we do have some questions from people watching. So we do want to answer those questions.
So Madeline says, or I saw a recommendation to wait a few days or so that the bugs can get worked out. Do you agree? As long as the form gets completed, the bugs that we've seen are bugs that prevent people from accessing the form. Once you access the form, I haven't seen any reports of the data that you input being altered, affected, or in any way transformed from what the colleges will see. So what I say is go ahead and complete it if you get a chance, if you've been checking and it becomes available for you to, where it says log into my FSA ID and that button is blue instead of gray. I would just say to go ahead and complete it. And if you just want to be extra careful, as I mentioned earlier, wait till the end of the month. That is when the information from the FAFSA will be sent over from the federal government to the institutions, and tell them, hey, did you receive all the information from the FAFSA, from the federal government? Is there anything you need, any additional documentation, anything else I can provide to facilitate this process? And that will be your safest way of making sure that you submit it early, but that everything also is submitted properly and there's no problem there. That's my recommendation.
Can college students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, etc., still fill out the FAFSA even if they haven't filled it out before? If the student qualifies for the FAFSA and they just didn't fill it out, they should still, and they could still fill it out as long as the student is a resident of the United States, a citizen of the United States, or an eligible non-US citizen, and they have a right to fill out the FAFSA. They qualify basically. They should fill it out. We completed the FAFSA and it said that we didn't qualify for federal Pell Grants and our SAI was $15,000. Does that mean that we don't qualify for any financial aid? Is student loans the only option? That is an excellent question. I do want to clarify something. A common misconception that a lot of people do have. People think that the FAFSA is the only type of financial aid, and if they don't receive any federal aid after completing it, or Pell Grants, that's it, it wasn't worth it, or that's the only way to get financial
Scam, 17 emojis.
Exactly.
The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Yes, it assesses financial need, and there are things like the Pell Grant, or like federal work study that will be offered to students based on their financial need. However, a lot of institutional awards, or even some state-based programs, some state scholarships, those are merit-based awards that have nothing to do with your family's finances. But the requirement, or one of the caveats, is you are not going to be eligible to receive these awards unless you fill out the FAFSA. So if you qualify for those and you operate under the mentality of scam plus 17 emojis and you don't fill it out because you think you're going to not get any need-based awards, then you will be self-disqualifying from merit-based awards that have nothing to do with your family's finances and everything to do with your academic prowess and merit, okay? So just keep that in mind, because the last thing that we want is for you to have money that you're eligible to receive, but because of a lack of information, you follow the wrong advice and you don't go ahead and complete the form. And it's also important to note, this is not a guarantee that, okay, if you fill it out, you're automatically going to get money. But it is so much of a better approach and so much of a better scenario to complete it and not get any money and at least say, okay, I completed everything that I should have completed, than to have 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, whatever amount of money available and offered to you, but to leave it on the table because you did not complete the form.
So I hope that those answers helped you out. I hope that we were able to answer some of your questions. Make sure to subscribe. Also, if you haven't done so already, I want to remind you again, make sure to check out, to register to our free training. Francisco, you worked really, really hard on it. You explain a lot of information that is relevant, that it's important, and we answer a lot of frequently asked questions in that free training. So make sure that you register. If you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, you can watch this by checking out the link in the comments section or in this video's description.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy start of 2024.
Yes, have a wonderful night, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you around.
Take care, y'all.
See you later.